How's the squad shaping up going into this one?
Yeah, not too bad. Like always, we'll finalise it later in the week. We'll know more on Joe Burgess. But other than that, yeah, everyone's pulled up pretty well after last week.
Some news coming out today that Lee Kershaw, it's looking more like the 9 months option for his knee injury. Can you give us an update on that, please?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is. It's going to be at least 9 months. He's done his ACL, which is really unfortunate for Kirsch. Obviously, what goes with that is not only not being out, but it's can mentally affect some players. So it's really important now that he has his operation, and we want to give him some time. If he wants to go away, I think it's important. Clears his head, and then starts his recovery and prehab sort of after that. It's going to be a tough sort of few months or a couple of months ahead, but he's certainly got a lot of support from his teammates and the club. He's a great fella, and he'll bounce back. He's had these injuries before, and he'll bounce back.
Of course, and we send our best as well onto him. So Rhyse Martin come back into contention for this week then?
Yeah, so he'll be named in the squad, and again we'll just wait and see later in the week to see where he's at.
Obviously, a name that fans are excited to see back on team sheets. What will his return look like? Will it be more of a staggered and phased return for him?
Look, it's one of those when he's back. If he's right to play, he's right to play, and then we'll just need to see, what the minutes look like. So he's had a long process in terms of getting himself right to play, and now he's ready to play, whether it be this week or next week. And when that is, then we'll look at whether he starts or comes off the interchange, and just how we manage his minutes.
Jared and Mickey Mack as well. How are they both doing?
Yeah, hopefully both the next couple of weeks. So possibly for next week.
Danny Richardson going out on a 2-week loan to Salford announced this morning. What are you hoping he gets from that move?
Look, Richo wants to go out and play, which is good. We want all our players when there's an opportunity to go play, and get some game time to play. And he needed that at the moment. And it's good for Salford to have a player of his experience, and it's good for Richo to be able to go out and get a game or two under his belt, in the Super League. So I think it's good for everyone involved, especially for Richo to be able to play.
Because he will be one of the more experienced members of that Salford team over the next fortnight. Is that an additional benefit of him going on this slow move, aside from getting those minutes under his belt? He will get to play a fairly central role in organising that side over the next couple of weeks on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important that he goes and manages and runs a team. He's played some reserves with us, and he's playing with a lot of younger players, and that's what I want to see from him when he's playing reserves, and I want to see that again this weekend. But obviously, Paul Rowley might have a different role for him, or whatever his role may be, but I'm sure it will be a senior sort of role, being more experienced sort of half. It's always, and I say this to Danny, we'll look at whatever you can control, so that's his end of sets, that's how he kicks the ball, where they finish on last plays, his defence, his core skill, all that sort of stuff is what we look at. His obviously effort, how hard he competes. You can't control others around you, and that's sort of feedback that we sort of give him, what we say to him, when he's playing in reserves. I think it's similar this week, that he's going into a new squad and a new team, but he's going to have some very capable players. So for me, there's, I think he's going to be able to, I just think it's a good opportunity for him to be able to go play Super League and be able to help and manage a younger team.
You talked to Rich after the game last week on Peta Hiku's landmark, his 100th career try. It's also James Batchelor's 150th Super League appearance. I don't have to ask you what he brings to this whole chaos side, because that's evident for anyone who's watched him play. He's always speaking ahead of the big games as well. What does he mean to this whole chaos side?
Yes, unfortunately, Batch, he won't play this week, so he's one that he hurt his throat last week, so he needs to go to a specialist tomorrow just to see how long he'll be out for. So unfortunate for Batch and us, but he adds so much to this team. He's a player that we got over when I first come over. He come over the same time, and as soon as I saw him train and saw his work ethic and how hard he competes, I knew that we needed to keep him long term, which we did. And he's a really, really important part to our team. He's part of our leadership group. He's our vice captain, and the players love playing with him.
That's to nick a stat that Hawkeye shirts posted this week. Aren't the Morgs already your top point scorer for this season? And that's including Challenge Cup games that he's been excluded from. How is he becoming to your side?
Sorry, I missed that last part.
How key is he becoming to your side as a figure?
Yeah, look, he's added everything I thought he would. I kept an eye on him and I watched him from when I first came over and understood, who the players were. He was one that stood out for me. I just thought he can change a game. Pace is, you look at all the good fullbacks in the competition, they've all got pace and they can turn a game. We needed that. I just thought bringing someone like Arthur in would give us a little bit more with our attack and he's a threat on that right hand side, like he's a threat on that left, and then obviously Tyrone's controlling it all through that middle third. So he's settled in extremely well, him and his partner, and it was a big. It can be daunting coming over to another country, different culture, different way of living, and he's just adapted extremely well.
Now, the big news over the last few days is OKR's partnership with the North Queensland Cowboys. We spoke to Paul Lakin yesterday about how the whole thing will look across the board and behind the scenes. From your perspective and the first team perspective, how will this partnership look for you?
Yeah, I think we're more guided by, obviously, Paul. Paul's put this together with the Cowboys CEO, but it's something that we're fully backing. It'll evolve as time goes, but like Paul said, it's not going to be just a partnership that you shake hands and you don't hear from each other, or there's nothing happens off the back of it. We want, as Paul said, be able to share staff. Whether it's marketing departments, whether it's staff from the rugby department going over there and staff coming over. It's all about developing. You want to develop as a person and as a club, and we can learn from them. They can learn from us, and players will come over here. I'd imagine. The NRL at the moment is the number one competition. We're not far behind, but the NRL is seen as the number one competition. There's no doubt the Super League's ahead of the Queensland Cup. So players, who aren't ready to play NRL, will come over here and play in the Super League and get opportunities. You've seen a lot of the players making a name for themselves over here that have come from Queensland Cup or New South Wales Cup. So that will happen. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, we'll just be sharing ideas and thoughts and then growing together.
I know Paul said this has been something that's been getting built up behind the scenes for a good few months now. How has it worked so far? And have you had much involvement in it before the announcement?
No, I was aware of the announcement and aware of what was happening. But that's been mainly Paul driving it and in communication with the Cowboys.
I can't think of many other examples where there's been such like a formalised agreement between two sides. Have you been involved in anything similar in the past?
Not really. Similar. When I was at the Rabbitohs, they had a partnership with Leeds at the time, and they were sharing staff. Staff were coming over, and that there wasn't so much players sort of going from NRL to the Super League at all. But that's something that will happen here in time. But that was a partnership that I can remember. It was more around the marketing departments and sponsorship department and that type of thing. Sharing staff and trying to think what else. But yeah, basically it was that was a partnership at the time between the two.
And I know this will also have benefits for the academy setup. The academy is something that obviously Rose have been putting a lot of effort into building over the last couple of years, and there's a prospect of the academy boys going down under to Queensland for a little trip. How much of a benefit will that be for developing those younger players at Hawkeye?
Yeah, massive. That's an area that we want to grow, and like you say, and the Cowboys have got such a massive catchment in terms of who they can choose from, and they want to bring their own through, similar to us. We want to bring our own through, and it's all about it takes time to do that, but it's developing and learning and getting an understanding of how others do things, and that's what we'll do. But our players going over there, there'll be definitely some things in and around that where, we'll take our academy over there at some stage, and they'll get an understanding of the game over there and lifestyle of, like I could come over here when I was 19, 20 years of age, and I learned so much and grew up. Theirs would be shorter trips, but the opportunity to be able to do that is priceless for young sort of 18, 19-year-olds.
Now, I know there's still an awful lot of rugby still to be played, but I'm almost obliged to ask you about it. You're now 4 points clear at the top of the Super League. Are you sitting slightly more comfortably at the top?
No, like you just said, there's a lot of rugby to be played, so nothing changes for us. We need to prepare like we do. We've got a process around how we prepare each week, and the most important game for us is Friday night against Wakefield. We've obviously had a great win against Wigan, and that's our priority. That's our focus.
Let's talk about Wakefield then. What did you make of that win over Wigan?
Yeah, they're a class team. They've shown that from the start of the year. I remember I said it round 2. I said they're a good team, a very good team, and they've shown that. And I knew they were because the way they had players out and the way they adapted that night. They've had players out throughout the season, and Darryl Powell said it last week, but I noticed it early on in the season. It's not too much changes. Like they had a few players out again. Key players, Mike McMeekin out last week, and they find a way to beat Wigan. It's that's no fluke. They've worked hard in pre-season. You can see that. They're a close knit group. You can see that, and Darryl's doing a great job with them. So it's I've only got positive things to say, but obviously we need to make sure that we prepare right to keep our form and our momentum going on Friday.
What are the characteristics of a Wakefield side under Darryl Powell?
I think they're never beaten. That's probably the big thing that stands out for me. They play for 80 minutes. You talk about consistency. They've been consistent throughout the year, but they're a side that'll just keep going, and they're never beaten. They certainly don't beat themselves. You need to play well to make sure that you get the points. So that's probably the standout for me. They're in and around that 6 for a reason, and they'll be pushing that 6 at the back end of the year.
If you look at Wakey, they're a side that got relegated from Super League. They've rebuilt the squad. They're putting money into the stadium. They've got a real connection to their communities. There are a lot of similarities in that regard between Wakefield and the way that Ulgar has operated in the last few years.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we're a community club, and they're a community club. We're about replicating what our fans are all about. That's working hard. Our fans turn up regardless. Whether in the past, when we weren't going so well, and obviously we're doing some good things now, but they're a loyal bunch. I think Wakefield are as well, because you look at the championship when they went down. I think they were getting record crowds, in the championship competition. So there are a lot of similarities, and I think in terms of the way we play on the field, there's some similarities there. But there's no doubt both clubs are community clubs, and both want to do their community proud.
Now, I know you only like to look one game at a time, but you also talk about celebrating the little wins, and a win this week would make it Ulgar's most successful ever start to a season. What would it mean to be the head coach that delivers that to the fans?
Yeah, it'd be great. It's not about myself. It's about the team. I spoke, at the start of the year to the playing group, around. I believe that, and I said it to the media early on in the year. I believe that this group can leave a legacy, for a long period of time, and they're showing that. They're ticking little things off along the way, and if we can do that this weekend, we want to create our own legacy as a group. We've got some legends in and around the club who, if they've wanted to hand that baton over for a long period of time, and the players are starting to, their understanding of where they're at now as a group and where they can go. So it'll be a great little milestone again, but it's just another an opportunity to go out and as I say, we go back to our community and what we want to do. Our aim's always been to make our fans proud, and there's another opportunity to do that this weekend. So if we do that, then we'll put ourselves in a position to win. But if we go out and we start thinking about outcomes, then you start to get the results go the other way.
Lovely. That's everything from me, mate. I'll pass you over to the others, but good luck this week.
Cheers, Leo.
Cheers.
Hi, Willie. Hope you're well. Just a quick one from me, if that's all right.
Sure, mate.
Obviously, you mentioned the three that are returning and Rhyse Martin being long term. Are there some tough conversations that you're going to have with other players that might not make it for the rest of the season now, that have had such a big impact, and obviously with the Challenge Cup victory, there's some tough conversations there?
Always, yeah, absolutely. When you've got a squad the way that we've put together, there's going to be tough conversations. There's no doubt about that. So when we've got everyone back on deck for selection, it's a headache for myself and the coaching staff. I always go through the staff or the coaches to get their opinion on teams. At the end of the day, I'll make the final decision, and I'll live with that. But we will pick a team based on form. We'll pick a team based on training and how they're performing at training. We pick a team based on attitude. There's a lot of factors of how we'll select a side, based on who we're playing that week. But at the end of the day, there'll be players that miss out that should be in the team. So it's unfortunate, for certain players, but it's a good position to be in. It's a position that we wanted to be in, and that's why we've gone and selected or put together a squad. And that squad's helped us win a Challenge Cup. We've had players, I'm not sure the exact amount, but a number of players played leading into that final. So it wasn't just about the 17 who took the field that day. It was about it was based around a squad.
Yeah, and you said the phrase selection headache. Ultimately, that's what every head coach wants in a season and throughout the season, not just at the start, injuries given in the season, but that selection headache is something that every coach wants to have throughout the course of the whole season. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's not fun talking to players and telling players that they're not in. Obviously, yeah, it's probably the part that you don't enjoy. I certainly don't enjoy that, but it's you'd rather be in a position to be able to have headaches like that than not picking players that I always talk about. You need to earn the jersey. Having players in there that probably haven't earned the right to be in there. I'd rather go the other way. That's for sure.
Just on Rhyse, he said last week that I think it was the start of this week. Hopefully he joined training. Has he joined everyone else on the field and he's ticked all the boxes that he needs to so far?
Yeah, he's joined training, so he's been ticking boxes along the way. So we'll just make a decision later on the week whether he plays this week or he plays next week.
Just for context, I'll push you. When was it that he joined training fully with the squad?
Yeah, so he's only joined the squad fully, but he's been doing everything what he needs to from a rehab point of view to make sure that he can fully join the squad, which has been this week.
Yeah, fun. Cheers, Willie. Best luck this week. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hi, Willie. It's Martin Sadler here.
Hey, man. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, mate. Just a very quick one. You've got a contract to 2028, Willie, but I notice in the Australian press your name is starting to crop up more and more when it comes to future NRL coaching opportunities. That must be really gratifying for you, but not surprising given what you've won. But presumably you are. You would anticipate seeing out that contract even if, some of the big NRL clubs come knocking at the door.
Yeah, I mean, my focus is, as I said, doing what I'm doing now and certainly Friday night and getting the team ready. Look, if you win games as a coach, things like that happen. If you lose games, then you're in the media for the wrong reasons of your job probably coming to an end. So, I don't worry too much about that. I just focus on what I'm doing, mate, every day.
Looking at your team on Friday, obviously you've not announced the squad yet, so we've not seen it, but I just wonder whether you're going to give an opportunity to Ariba Doro, because I was really impressed by the way he played against St Helens when, Dean Hadley didn't play in that game. Obviously, Dean came back for the Wembley game, and I don't think Ariba was the 18th man. He was the 18th man against Castlewood last week. I wonder whether you will give him another go sometime soon.
Yeah, well, Ruby's he'll be part of our squad, but he's a player that, like others that is always thought of to be in that 17, and if he's not in the 17, could he be in the 17? Absolutely. But look, the thing with it, where Reeby's at, he's only, this is his first year back in the Super League. This is his probably, first proper go. I know he was at Warrington in the past, showed that he can play championship. Now, look, he just needs to play Super League. But unfortunately, again, you can only pick 17 players. So, I've made sure that I've tried to give him some opportunity to play. There's been times I could have kept with the same 17, but it's about developing him and about opportunity. There's no doubt he'll be waiting for his opportunity again, whether that's this weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But he's one that's always on top of our minds.
If another club came knocking and said, "Could you loan him to us?" Would you consider that with him?
We'll always consider it for players, because we want them playing. But then we need to make sure as well that we're covered as well, providing there's you've got to get through training and then obviously the game that weekend and then the week after. But I've very rarely said no to a player that wants to go out and loan. There'll be a time that we'll need to go. It's about us now and about getting this squad ready for the back end of the year. But I certainly don't say no too often to any players that want to go out and loan.
And just ask you about another of your younger players, young Noah Booz. I think he played his fourth game for you against Castleford. Are you happy with him? Are you likely to pick him again on the wing? You've got
depending how Joe goes. Yeah, we need to wait and see how Joe goes. But obviously Noah's done a wonderful job. He's only young, and he's only going to get better. He's got a long-term contract with us, and we're looking forward to seeing his growth and development. I said it last week. He'll be better once he has a pre-season with us. So that's the exciting part for us and for Noah as well.
The final point, mate. You mentioned earlier some of the players coming from the Queensland Cup into Super League now, which has been eased with recent rule changes in terms of recruitment. I don't know whether you'd agree with me, but one of the very, very best must be Kais Fartili, who has been outstanding for Wakefield and played a big part, I thought, in the Wigan win. I suppose you've got a plan to make sure that he doesn't, snatch a try from 10 metres out against you on Friday night.
Yeah, well, I think Wigan probably had a plan as well, but he's a big unit and he's causing a few headaches to defensive teams. So, look, we know what's coming. It's a matter of stopping him. It's similar to all those sort of big guys, but he's got good feet. He's strong. And to be able to score tries like that against Wigan don't come easy. He's a handful. So, they're one of the best defensive teams in the comp. So we need to be on. We've obviously got plans around, how we think we can nullify him, but he's going to be a threat at some stage. It's just how he is as a player, and he's good to watch. And just hopefully he doesn't go as well this week.
And the other threat is Jake Truman, I suppose, who's at last come back into hopefully regular contention with them. The pass he gave to Tom Johnson for that try against Wigan was outstanding. Again, easier to talk about stopping it than actually stopping it, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got that in his game. He's been a class player for a while, but he's had some injuries. Now he's getting a few games back together. But yeah, he's him and Mason Lino are two good halves that we need to nullify this week.
Okay, mate. Well, good luck and good to speak to you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Willie. Cheers,
Thanks, mate.
Hi, Willie. You all right?
Hey, Sam. Good, mate. You?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Just quickly touching on Joe's Batchelor. You mentioned that he's going to go see a specialist. Is there any indication that that's going to be a lengthy layoff, or is it just more precautionary at the moment?
There will be some time, but yeah, the time frame, it's a bit grey at the moment. Sort of 2 weeks, could be 2, could be up to 6 weeks. So I'm thinking it's going to be less than 6 weeks. Hopefully 3 possibly, but we need to make sure, or we need to get the experts to tell us what it is. I'll be able to give you, once he's gone to the specialist, I'll be able to give you exact details.
Yeah, no worries. And just in terms of any details, you said throat. Was he just caught higher on the neck, or so it was something like that?
Yeah, he just got a knock to the throat, which he's done. There's an injury there. So as I say, we just need to make sure that that we know, we know how to treat it, but exactly what it is, and then the time frame to treat it.
Yeah, that was all from me. Thanks very much, and best of luck on Friday night.
Cheers, mate.
Hi, Willie. Hope you're well.
Sorry, who's that? I can't see.
Hi, Ben. You all right?
Hey, Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. Obviously, you mentioned Noah Booth there. Has Noah done enough to make you think about putting Budgie back in when he's back fit?
Yeah, absolutely. He's, what we wanted to do was bring in players that are going to add value and competition for spots. So, look, if Joe's fit, Joe will play, but there'll certainly come a stage where it's going to be a competition for spots. But Joe's earned that right, to be our starting winger at the moment. He's obviously, helped us win a Challenge Cup final, and Noah's at the start of his career. But there's no doubt, we want to see Noah, and others put pressure on our starting wingers, because, we don't want complacency as a group. Individuals can't afford to get complacent because, we want to have that where we said before, where it's a squad, and there's competition for spots.
How far off is Joe? Is he in contention this week?
He's in contention, yeah. So we just need to work out, or he needs to be able to prove that he can play.
Cheers, mate. Good luck this week.
Cheers, man.